Okay. Um, Hello. Let's pick the right scene here. Yep, here we go. Twitch. Diablo. Yay, we did it. Okay. 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 Hold on. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. Ew. They didn't start for like 30 minutes. No, go further back. Further back. Further back. Further back. That's the one. We're just gonna hide the chat replay because they were toxic as fuck. Um Okay, we'll just put myself there. All right. Basically, what we're doing is we're gonna go through this campfire chat, make some notes, and then record a video. I've seen it already. I just want to make sure I have everything correct. You know what I mean? So hold on, I'm gonna tweet out. Okay, we are back. Hold on one second. Okay. Cool. Holy jumping. Okay. Diablo notes. 4. All right. So let's
Yes!
hold on. I might make a coffee after this. Anyhow. Oh, this is the long one. No. How old is this account anyway? October 2023. Well, that's a report. Spam bots. Wow, what a first message. Idiot. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna close that. I don't know, do I make coffee now? Maybe. These like Twitter user these these users that come into my channel and offer a promotion for something, it's just like you could have read the rules at least and saved, saved your account in another day. But like, come on, man. You broke my rules and mainly you broke the Twitch rules, and they're pretty clear on this shit. I hope they get banned. Yep. 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 Hold on. Just checking the old email. There you go. That's just Twitter. Whatever. I don't know. Do we coffee up? I think we'll be okay. Okay, let's just go. Go and dry.
Hello, Diablo community. Welcome to another Diablo 4 Campfire chat.
Too loud.
We have a lot to talk about today. I say that all the time, but I will say that this time we really do. Yeah, we will let the community decide. I promise you, this is a lot though. But my name is Adam Fletcher. My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community lead for the Diablo franchise. Of course, I'm joined by a wonderful panel here, plus one other who is off camera and will be jumping in. We have Charles Dunn, who's a game designer on Diablo 4, Mr. Joe Shelley, who is the game director of Diablo 4, and Mr. Joe Pipora, who's the associate game director of Diablo 4. Hello. And we will be joined by Adam Jackson, who's the lead class designer of Diablo 4, before we get to the class-specific information that we're going to share today. But I know Joe wanted to jump in, talk a little bit about some of the things we're going to be talking about today, and then we will go through a plethora of changes.
Okay, so I saw this part before. Joe actually makes a little like introduction, so I'm going to actually try and skip by it.
Into Diablo 4 and of it, Mr.
Action hall, which is an Diablo like. What is important to PG? Those are what and it's important to solve it. So sit back.
What we want to do first,
drink, get your React faces ready, and let's do it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate.
Okay, good. We're there. Hold on one second. I just want to double check something. Excellent. Check W. All right, so I think you're focusing on the highlights. LOL. Yeah, I mean, this was. There's another 2 hours of video almost.
Appreciated, Joe. So I know.
I'm just glad we got to skip forward a half an hour.
What we want to do first, we kind of have an agenda of items, but one thing we do want to talk about really quickly is about PTR. We do want to get.
Adam, you're a cool guy, but
some house, and it's actually going to run for a week now. April, all live. So Plur Projects will be asking like, "Hey, PTR," and try everything out that we're about
PTR
about here in
April
this stream.
2 to 9.
I know a lot of people are probably asking like, "Hey, that seems pretty close to the end of season 3. Is that enough time for you guys to actually react to you know, the feedback
Season
that
3
from PTR.
extended.
And I will note here that we do
until
plan on actually extending Season 3 for this. So Season 3 is actually going to have a new end date. We're pushing it back a few weeks to ensure that we get all the feedback from this PTR.
May 14th.
And we apply it to Season 4 to make sure that all these new system changes that we're doing are right and work for the community based off of everyone's feedback. So Season 3 is now going to end on May 14th. And of course, with that, Season 4 also starts on May 14th. So there are some a few different changes coming on for the schedule. So you'll see that in-game message, which actually notes like when the season is actually ending, change today probably with this.
I'll note that Path of Exile does not do this. They actually separate their like patch drop and the league start by a few days. So like this run, for example, they're gonna do some reveals tomorrow. It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna find out about, you know, Path of Exile 1, Path of Exile 2, and all the like good stuff. And then yeah, so the league ends on the 26th. And then there's gonna be some time in between the end of 323 and the start of 324. And then, you know, that'll be like cleaning up my stash kind of thing and just organizing it so it's not so scuffed or whatever. But I don't get why you want to do it on the same day, because if you run into problems, I mean, the queue in PoE is usually a little bit manga-ass itself, but like, anyhow.
For players, so that, again, we can make sure that we apply all the feedback from PTR, which starts on April 2nd through April 9th.
Which, by the way, I hope there's a lot of feedback. I actually left some already. Do you want to know what I said? Like, have you played much Diablo, or you just haven't had a chance? And I totally understand if you haven't had a chance. It's not exactly the best game. Or had no desire. So the way I played a tiny bit, yeah, so did I. It's been a while for me, but I understand kind of like the systems that are going on. So, I actually haven't really noticed that they engage with people a lot on feedback. I've noticed that stuff just sort of disappears into thin air. So like there was a couple of content creators from the Diablo 3 days who got hired onto their team, and one of them later is going to actually be playing the new build. So you'll see Bloodshed in there somewhere. And then the guy I submitted my feedback to is an associate class designer to Adam Jackson, who is Leviathan, who was also like a D3 like mega juicer dude. So I linked him a huge thread I made basically saying that the item changes are fine, but in the context of all of the items, I don't think that their legendary tier items make sense. Like, I think you could eliminate that because you could hunt for a rare with good enough stats on it, put an aspect on it, it becomes this like pseudo unique. And then if it's just missing affixes, you can go through the new crafting system. So instead of making all of those other items, you know, crappy by extension, kind of like crunch it and then have like the uniques that are like really powerful on the end, separated from everything. And then I was saying that like, because they're cleaning up all of the shitty items, that you could kind of think about removing the salvage function a little bit. Because now, again, you're still sifting through items for a different reason. You're looking mainly for stuff that you can keep using instead of, you know, hunting for something that has, you know, instead of like filling your stash and just blindly going for it for it, or like getting too stuck, you're getting stuck for a different reason. Because you find power on the ground in Diablo. It's never really because you crafted something. It's mainly because you found a thing and they're saying, okay, well, our legendaries are basically really good rares from Path of Exile, like a good base, if that makes sense.
One other note is that, again, PTR itself is specifically for PC BattleNet only. So this
makes sense, and you agree? Oh, good. So I made a podcast during COVID that actually called out a lot of these issues before they happened. And I was saying that items having legendary powers are basically worthless to trade because they're worth nothing except the essence that they have. So all you're collecting them for is basically the aspect, and nothing else useful comes of it. What they're doing now is saying, okay, well, now that item is still a bit useful. Okay, you can keep it now. You know what I mean? And then they have some other stuff about like upgrading your aspects later on, which I'll get to. But like, what I want to focus on is like the main section before the Q&A, and I'll just leave the Q&A stuff out.
This just allows us to be a little bit more agile on our team. Does this mean that PTR is only going to be PC BattleNet only in the future? No, it doesn't. We are going to try to explore other ways of being able to bring PTR when we do have a PTR to players in the future. But for now, this one is PC BattleNet only. So, and we'll have instructions of how to actually get into the public test realm client on Diablo 4 through the PC BattleNet client next week, when we actually have a full blog that will explain kind of all the details of how to do that well before the start of PTR in itself. But then there's other notes with.
Also, I hope nothing bad was showing on my screen when I went to Twitter. Hold on. No, I think we're good. Good Lord, that was risky.
PTR as well, because there's probably going to be a lot of questions of like, well, am I starting with like a level 1 character? Am I taking my existing characters? Since PTR itself is a fresh new server, you will actually be starting fresh on PTR, but we do.
Do you want to check the VOD? Like, just clip it and scrub it a little bit. See what's going on. Hold on, because I was gonna log into my other account and try to show you what's going on. Oh, here's the button. Add existing. Give me a sec. You're just gonna say, okay. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Notifications. So this is what I said. Can't hold any longer. We're pause champing. Item update seems fine. The legendaries could have been made into decent rares without the bloat. Things have an item journey, which is great, but I don't think they've solved the trade issues either. You can't profit off making something for another player. As an example, there should be IMO, some sort of miss items where they're partially craftable or don't completely suit your needs. Certainly you will need testing, but it's definitely better. I think the bigger issues with it are item tier bloat, because the legs are basically decent rare items in other games. Endgame activity, materials becoming bloated instead of making currency. Items having more trade value and allowing an avenue to get wealth from crafting. This is the problem, is basically items don't have enough value to do that. I also think the game is still too generous with quality and quantity. I'll take the idea that salvage needs to be removed as just clutter at this point and makes the rest of the drops basically get worthless. Partially true when you're focusing on more quality drops. At this point, I don't think scanning your inventory is actually completely gone, especially when the game is so heavily dependent on the ground for power. And then I went on to say, because again, he responded, read through your comments. Can you explain what you mean by legendaries leading to bloat? I said item qualities. Sorry for not being clearer on that. That dagger could have been a yellow. You applied an aspect to that has open affixes for roughly the same outcome. Its SKUs built towards all legendary tier. There could be extra competition for Ubi uniques to take the place of it, whatever it was. I'm hoping that makes sense. Like I said, not a bad system, probably me overthinking it. And then as for the salvage comment, that will have to play out and is admittedly just speculation on my part. Not confident on that one. But that is about as good as you can get, I would say. My main criticism of Diablo 4 during the quarterly updates era was that they weren't talking enough about the systems. And if and when you play Path of Exile, this is going to make a lot more sense. One of the leagues in that game is Essence League, and essentially what it is these crafting things that allow you to have one guaranteed thing on your item, and it just randomly chooses everything else. So you'll have an item that gives you fire resist, for example, an essence, so you can use it on your item. And if you don't like everything else plus the fire resist, you can keep spamming it. And I felt like aspects are just that, pretty much, except what's on the item and you're just shoehorning it in and being like, done. Legendary power added. And I didn't think those items held any in-game economic value, whereas in Path of Exile there's tons of shit going on. Like, holy, like I could look up trade filters, sale type, listings by account, and just look at myself, right? Any. And there, right? Skill items have a value, and then everything else has a value. So this ring, for example, that I found, it has some decent stats on it and a curse on hit. Shit. It's just, right? Anyhow.
You have boosting options available because we need players to actually jump in and test out some of these features that we're.
But yeah, if we play PoE, I'll show you some of that stuff. A good middle ground is Last Epoch, but if you can understand Path of Exile, a lot of other games just become sort of easier by extension, because it's like you have all this knowledge already, and then it's just sort of different ways of implementing it.
Obviously, in these system changes that we're doing specifically for PTR. So I think we actually have a slide, I believe. Speaking of which, I know I
Oh, yeah, I don't need this.
Bring the camera back to me, Lucas. Sorry. We need to actually showcase, because there might be a lot of details in there. I will say we will have slides today because there's a lot to share, but we also have a live build. So we will Now we can go to the character immediately. And then we will also mark the campaign complete. Paragon, Fog of Weave, or like any other Mac stuff.
Yeah, that does matter.
We'll have that capability power, but we'll explain why. We will be accepting, of course, feedback. That is not on right now. Today.
Please do, because you can tell I'm just describe it now, but with my training, it's going to disappear into the unknown. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's a lot to take in. That's why I'm saying you don't need to know everything up front. We'll just screw around in the beginning, because me telling you about all the end game systems is not going to make sense, and it's better if you take it at your own pace. So, like, you know, the one thing you will have to do by yourself is the very first beach area. There's a mini boss at the end of it. You'll have to beat him yourself, but I can give you some tips on how to do it. And then you can party up in the first town and then all the way after that. But there is just, like I said, that one section that you're kind of alone in.
Playing through during PTR between those dates that we actually mentioned, because the team is going to be looking at it and making sure that we can make any changes before the start of season 4. So with that, now that we've gotten through the PTR,
yeah,
like how.
1 sec. Okay. Do you want to see him? Just get a quick view of Mr. Mini Boss here. Oh. $20 hours. Oh, no, I didn't want to do that. Sorry, I clicked create private league. So I'm in standard. So you know what, I'll just make a league character here. Try and make it easy on myself. Just make any character. So this is the tutorial area, and I don't know if I'm getting too ahead of myself here. You just auto attack this person. And these are skills. You have to socket them into things for them to work. So you plop it there and bam, right on your bar. You can just literally go past everything because they don't do anything. This is what's called a support gem. It amplifies your skills. You just done. The links are what make it connect. Easy peasy. The zombies and crabs on here don't matter. And it's just this guy. You just Fire on him. I'm playing a witch, so it's a little easier, but he regens at half. Fireball does more damage when he's ignited. And he gets stuck in animation too, so you can see that it's easy to walk by him. Boom, done. And then you have a skill point. I'm not going to open the tree because that's its own thing and we'll save it. But there you go. Nope, it's not. I clicked skip all tutorials, but you can actually like go through them and there's a help section. So
housekeeping notes.
Yeah.
Mr. Joe Pipe.
Let's dive in. Okay.
Let's dive in.
There is quite a bit to cover today, so we're going to try to move briskly through parts where we can. So there's three major things we're going to be discussing today. The first, Charles will be bringing us through a number of itemization and crafting changes.
Oh, no.
When Season 4 goes live. I want to also be very clear that the changes we're talking about today are all going to be on the Eternal Realm and on the Seasonal Realm. We're not actually talking about the season specifically today. We're really talking about this massive item update and these other updates been happening kind of in parallel to season development during this time. So that's the first part. The next, I'll be guiding us through some of the new endgame content that we're going to be implementing and integrating into the Season 4 release. And then Adam Jackson is going to be coming on to talk about a lot of the live class updates making across the various mechanics of the game. So there's a lot to look forward to. Let's go ahead and just, I guess, dive right in. Charles, if you don't mind taking us away.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start talking about itemization. So when we think about the itemization updates, I think it's really helpful to frame this conversation around some of the goals that we have for the itemization update. So our number one main goal here is to focus on quality of items over quantity of items. So one of the persistent points of feedback that we've gotten since we've launched Diablo 4 last year was that a lot of the items that you find in dungeons and throughout the game, you end up just sifting through. It felt great. And so with this update, that's been our number one goal is to focus on making sure that when we do give you items, they're high quality items, they're much more likely to be useful for your build, rather than just flooding you with endless streams of often junk items. The second goal we have here is that the best items in the game, the really pinnacle ones that you get at the end game, they have a journey associated with them. As I said before, you were kind of sifting through your inventory and looking for these items, but once you found that perfect item, you were pretty much done. It was basically a complete item, and
so I will say, as far as I remember it, perfect items are still attainable, which I don't think should be the case. I think in a better world, you wouldn't have an avenue to get anything perfect. You would get like 95th percentile, I guess, or like 95% good, like awesome items. Maybe something that was like 98 if you were super lucky, but never 100. I don't agree with that.
You're already done with the item. You've completed it. We think that the game...
It's just like the idea of min-maxing and having a journey ahead of you, because like, you know, I mean, this is probably Path of Exile brain talking, and I keep like inserting that into the comments.
Is a lot more engaging when you...
Because they currently don't have a journey, and you're just farming like uber uniques. And like I said, those legendaries with the power on them.
Have a bit of a journey, an investment, whether it be in time, crafting materials, and you really get to customize and make.
But the idea and the goals that he's laying out here are like amazing. Like that is item goals.
Make items your own and make it feel like this is for me and my build and my character.
Yeah, and feel that power progression too. It's absolutely the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And the third goal that we have here is to focus on moments of surprise and...
Yeah. So, one thing that Diablo has done well in even D3, when they put in Loot 2.0, is cleaning up the item drops. Path of Exile still has to get there, and we have an item filter for that. So I can get you like started on that as well, and it's very easy to set up. But in PoE, it's easy for me to see what's at least decent with my item filter because it will hide a bunch of stuff that's just not useful. Like, you can't salvage in that game, so your inventory isn't as like screwed up by picking up things that you're traveling to town to salvage. So
delight in the itemization chase. This leads to moments of, you know, hey, I found the item. You get really excited about it, and you're just, you know, you have these infrequent moments. It's not going to be all the time, but when you do find it, you're going to know it, you're going to feel it, you're going to be really excited about what just dropped. So with that, we have a number of topics within the itemization update. So the overview here is that we've got updates to exist.
okay, here we go. Base items, additional dates, codex, tempering, greater affixes. I think greater affixes is an area, and those last three, I think, where it kind of goes off the rails a little bit. It gets a little too far up itself.
Such as base items updates. We've got a few additional updates that are kind of adjacent to the itemization system. We've got some updates to Codex of Power, which we sort of alluded to earlier, and I think those are going to be some really big wins. We also have some new systems being introduced here. We've got tempering, which is going to be a new customization system. Greater affixes, which help to provide some chase in the end game. These are going to be some of those powerful items, ones that have greater affixes. And then once you do reach that end game with great gear, you're going to be able to masterwork it to really unlock its full potential and upgrade it to the best possible version that it can be. So let's hop into some of the base item updates. So this is where we're going to focus on making a smaller pool of affixes that are more relevant and more potent for your specific build. So as I kind of mentioned earlier in the goals section, a lot of the affixes and stats that appeared on items, they were often very conditional, right? You had like damage while berserking or damage to close enemies or things that were hype.
That web page I brought up just kind of solidified my point, because like the rare item is like 3 to 4 stats, right? And then the legendary is about the same, but with a power on it. So, you know, without items doing something to like drastically change builds in a generic way, if they stay targeted, that's crappy. Like, there's a Path of Exile belt called this Path of Exile chase item is called Headhunter, for example. So what it does is it's not really that great of a belt. It's only level 40, but the power on it is that you gain the affixes of any rare mobs you kill for like a full minute or something. So if you're going through a map, you have to ramp up, but you can be like ridiculously powerful for a short amount of time as the stacks sort of like fall off, right? So you can like zip zoom around and have like extra defenses, but getting over the hill is something, and you're giving up a belt slot, which is very valuable. And then, you know, it doesn't work everywhere, so like not every build would use a headhunter, you know what I mean? It's like it's those kind of trade-offs that I think could have just contributed to something better. Anyway, let me go back one sec. I just
need to... an affix version that it can be. Okay. So let's hop into some of the base item updates. So this is where we're going to focus on making a smaller pool of affixes that are more relevant and more potent for your specific build. So as I kind of mentioned earlier in the goals section, a lot of the affixes and stats that appeared on items, they were often very conditional, right? You had like damage while berserking or damage to close enemies or things that were hyper specific and ultimately just were kind of
This one seemed weird at first.
meaningless in a lot of ways. They blended together. We're really in this rework, we're focusing on reducing that pool of affixes to be more general. They're more applicable to a lot of builds. They're not going to be this hyper-specific conditional, and they're going to be more potent. So some examples here, we've got ranks of a single core skill. Sometimes on gear, you would find items that have ranks of upheaval, ranks of whirlwind, and ranks of double swing, all on the same item. And almost no build wants all three of those things at once. So we've made it so that, hey, only one of these can appear. That makes just the subset of items that you find much more likely to be relevant for you. And in terms of like being more potent, we're looking at things like in World Tier 3, only sacred items are going to appear. And then once you get into World Tier 4, only ancestral, only those most powerful versions of items will appear. This means you're just getting less junk, right? Sometimes you'd get sacred items in World Tier 4, and that never felt great because, hey, I'm in World Tier 4, I should be getting the best items now. We also did a pass on the affix values to make.
So there's some, anyway.
They're a bit punchier. That you could feel it when you really equip an item. This often was just some numerical tuning. In the past, you might get an item that said plus 2% critical strike chance, and honestly, it was hard to ever notice that, or like plus 5% damage or something like that. And those really small values were just hard to ever notice when you're swapping it, and it never felt like you got to upgrade your gear.
Did you ever play Diablo 2? I guess is the better question. It's like, oh, this is very tiny. Shit. So Path of Exile is like Diablo 2 on steroids. Because like this is the old Harlequin crest, right? All skills, all stats, life and mana based on character level, damage reduction, straight damage reduction, and magic find. Chains of Honor, Spirit, Yeah, I know, it's just, god damn it. Here, you know what? I know. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hello? Hold on. Options. Windowed. Apply. There we go. That's better. It's fine. It's fine. So this is the same character. I just ported it over a while ago. But like, impactful stuff, not many affixes. Some of the things had like a lot of different usefulness. Arachnid mesh, excellent item. Yeah, I'm not using venom, but like triangles, 20 FCR, cold resist, 30 flat defense. 4 Travs. This is like ridiculous level source, but like, and this item is giga rare. Yeah, I know. Jeff Bezos, because it's an Amazon. Yep. She's got ridiculous items. Titan's Revenge. Chains of Honor. Moser's. Some random ass gloves. 20. Where are we at? Ooh, Terror Zone. Okay, where's some stuff to kill? Feel like I have to now. Anyway, you get the idea. Yes. In that game you could still craft because you could make like blood amulets and like reroll magic items and like, you know, do a whole bunch of like fun stuff, like reroll what was it, those grand charms, the magic ones with the 3 perfect gems in the cube when life was easier.
So let's take a look at some examples here. Oh, right. So the other update is that we are reducing the total number of affixes on gear that initially drop.
Okay, I'm gonna get some water. I think this like particular idea is good because this item is like trash for, you know, trying to read it. You know, it's like damage to enemies only if they're holding a spear and targeting you. Like, what the fuck? LOL, trash. Hey, look at it. Int vulnerability damage, that's conditional. Damage to shadow damage over time affected enemies, conditional. Lucky hit, that's also a condition on top of a condition. Chance to execute injured non-elites. It's fucking trash. And then, you know, this is the only like certain thing, the ossified essence. And this is what I mean. You could just salvage this because this is an imprinted rare, right? This is literally what I'm talking about. Imprinted rare from the essence. So this item is, for all intents and purposes, a piece of trash that when you found a better wand, you just imprinted it. So it has no trade value whatsoever outside of whatever this is. But this literally right fucking here is my idea. Find rare, imprint, new base.
So legendary items used to drop with 4 affixes, 4 lines of stats. That's going down to 3. And then rare items, the yellow items used to have up to 4, and now they'll just go down to 2. And yeah, so the goal here, once again, is to really focus on the quality of the affixes that appear on the gear, rather than just...
You think they intentionally chose something trash for this segment? it didn't matter what they chose. All they needed to do was demonstrate that there's less affixes and show what they are. So that particular choice of items is like not relevant to the conversation. It's just display, right? But taking out Lucky Hit is fantastic. Like that, I mean, vulnerable damage can stay in, which it did. But, you know, in the PoE2 demos, if you watch them, they tend to seem extremely slow, and they intentionally take extra time to show you what all the attacks hitting looks like. But yeah, this is exactly what my brain got to without remembering it.
The pure quantity, and this also gives us room.
And this is why I said you don't need this tier, because this thing exists.
To build on it in some of the later crafting and tempering systems. You are going to get more affixes, but the base item is going to start with a little bit less, just so we have room to grow.
One of the changes that we're making in response to this also, like we know that right now, like rare items are the items that players are using to trade in situations where you find like a really, really powerful template item. So you get a max roll helmet with CDR and such, right? Like there's like these are still really important for players. So as part of this change, we are going to open up trading to allow legendary items and unique items.
Show the cat. All right. Hi, you're famous. Hey, kitty. Can you see him? Is he there? Hold on. Hold on. Hey, buddy. Hi, buddy. Okay, you're free now.
To also be tradable in the starting in season 4. This is a big change for us. Now, one distinction here to keep people on, to let people keep this in mind, is that crafting on either of these items, whether you're going to be tempering or masterworking or anything else later on down the road, these things like enchanting does today, these make these items account bound. So you can't trade them once you get them after you've done some crafting on them. So we think.
Oh, this is my other freaking pet peeve. So, like, they want trade, but they're telling you that the item before is only as good as the initial drop version, and you can't do anything with it once you've crafted on it. So it's just like up in smoke. Done. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, I know. Hi. That. Yes. Hello, sir.
This does a great job of making sure that the trade economy is still interesting, and that
it's not interesting.
For a specific item or an item is dropped for you that a friend can use, it's going to be a lot easier for you to go
hey, buddy.
Around now.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's.
By the way, I'm gonna know.
Hi, Adam Jackson.
Oh, yeah,
Adam Jackson snuck in here. Yes.
Trading is a big deal. Very important. I'm okay taking that.
Literally appeared for trading.
Yeah, appeared for trading.
The trading fairy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's a very important note, and I know a lot of people, might have saw this and thought, "Oh, rare items are now, how can I trade?" But now you can still be trading these legendary items that you find if they're useful for you, or you think they might be useful for a friend.
Oh, and also, I should say, uber unique items are not going to be tradable in season 4.
Oh, hold on. Ad break. I Oh, good. We're good. Yeah, it should be over. Is it over? Sweet.
Everything that isn't an Uber.
Yeah, everything is not an Uber unique.
An Uber unique, yeah. Those are the most powerful items, and if you want those, you're going to have to go and find them yourself.
That's right.
Those are the most powerful items in the game there. All right, so let's take a look at a closer example here. So we've got, kind of on the left, a before. This is a Boned Wand of Serration. This was before our update. This is what you could currently get on live. And you can see how it's got, plus intelligence, vulnerable damage, damage to shadow damage over time affected enemies. That is a mouthful. Same with the lucky hit, chance to execute injured non-elites. These are the really hyper-specific affixes that we're talking about that really bloat items. It takes a while to parse this. Like, you just can't add a glance.
Bloat items.
Hey, is this even good for me?
Yeah, reading through a number of conditional additive damage modifiers is like when you're like item to item. It's just very it is taxing. Especially when you really fill up your inventory with 30 plus of these items. You're trying to sort through them all at once when you just really want to get back into the action, right? You want to get back into fighting demons. So after this itemization update, in the after section here, we have got a similar item. It has intelligence. It has plus damage. That just applies to all of your damage. It's not, hyper specific. And we still do give you a larger bonus if you're hitting vulnerable enemies with this.
Can you get an item now that gives you like int, dex, and strength on it?
No, in fact, because this wand just has intelligence on it, it is just the main stat for your class. So if you are a sorcerer, you're only going to find intelligence on items. If you're a barb,
So they're saying that it's smart loot, so you're only going to get rolls that are specific. Oh my god. All right.
you're only going to find strength, and so on.
I can still find all stat, right?
Yes.
all stat
Yeah,
stuff
you still
like
have
that.
all stat, but no more are you going to find, oh, I got, intellect on my barbarian. That's just basically a completely dead stat for you.
Got it.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other additional updates that are kind of adjacent to the main itemization updates. Legendary item drops from monsters that are level 95 or higher are always going to be at item power 925. That is the highest item power in the game. And once you're really facing the toughest monsters in the game, we want to make sure that you're constantly getting the best possible items. This really comes back to our idea of quality over quantity. Once you're at this point of the game, you don't really care about anything that isn't 925. So why are we dropping that for you, right? You're going to be kind of
Also, I don't necessarily fully understand the idea of item power when you could just have item levels. Like, I feel like that would help gate, where your affixes appear and what items you could use as a base. Because, an item that is 925 could be terrible. It doesn't stop it from being shit. But, like, how is that the best? You know what I mean?
graduating out of caring about item power because you just know that everything I'm getting is the maximum item power. Next, we've done a pass to update our gems. They are a little bit simpler. Some of the gems used to have, once again, those very conditional things like critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies was like one stat on one gem. So we kind of simplified it. So we now just have bonus critical strike damage or bonus vulnerable damage. We've also added some updates to have core stats on them. So some of the gems will have strength, some will have dex, and so on. And they'll have a little bit of a long
salvage crafting and rewards all returned, significantly reduced. Crafted items. The idea is that more you level them, the more traits you unlock and can reforge it. Oh. Why? By one submachine gun that's level 500, it means nothing. Yeah, because like
longer crafting tail. They're a bit more powerful at the
so in Diablo 2 and the same in Path of Exile, which I don't think is going to be true for PoE 2. But anyway, what you're kind of looking for is an item level of the appropriate like base type or level. Like if you were making a rune word, you would want something that was like appropriate for your class. So you'd look for a different base if you were like, you know, a high strength class like a barb, or you know, a mage plate if you were something else that didn't use a lot of strength. And that item level is the basis for everything. So like there's a website called Craft of Exile, and it has everything. So I can go create a new item, say body armor. Let's just try to make it easy. Strength base. Use a glorious plate. You know, 30 quality, whatever. Oh shit, emulator. Rip. My bad. Actually, you know what? Let's do helmets. Let's do intelligence, hubris circlet, 30 quality, level 100, boom. And this is going to determine like what affixes I have. So this is the base mod pool. Here's the influence stuff. There's all the crafting things I can put on it. There's another website too. Craft of Exile. Is it? No, it's this one. Okay, yeah. Let's circle it. Yeah, okay, so here you go. This is better. So it tells you what item level the affix appears at and how many tiers there are. So for energy shield, there's 7 tiers, and you can get the highest one at level 84. And there's like a low chance of you actually getting it, but it's there. You know what I mean? So this is what it's locked by. So if you said, okay, well, I don't want a T1 energy shield, you're like, oh, I don't need 92 to 100. I can survive here. Then you could say that and just get a level 72 circlet. Or if you wanted like life, but you would say, okay, well, for some reason you wanted life on an energy shield base, forgetting the base type. Again, that's not really relevant, but you know, you didn't want 99, you could survive at 89. You could just aim for T2, or like, you know, go to the level 64 one. You know what I mean?
Top end, but they do require a bit more investment to really unlock that highest power level. And once you have all the gems that you want, excess gems will now sell.
Yeah, you can actually go there and use every type of crafting material in the emulator. So you can use all the types of currency, because in game they'll say what they do. So this has to be rare usually. So there's going to be some changes, so it's not really worth explaining everything either at this point. Plus we don't know the full change log, but like, where's essences? Here. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I mean. So spite is intelligence. It gives you intelligence all the time. So I'll boom, and then here's the essence tier, and then here's everything else that appeared. And like, this is basically what those Diablo items are, like chance to avoid being shocked, or like, you know, Warcry speed, for example. There's more actually like affixes than just that, but this is what it gives you for helmets. For weapons, it's like attack speed that Zeal would modify.
For quite a bit more gold, so that way you're not really going to waste once you have kind of found those best gems. Additionally, we've done a pass on the salvage, crafting, and rewards have all been retuned for this new world where we're dropping, less items than before. Once again, we're focusing on you have less time sorting through your inventory and more time getting back in the action, more time slaying enemies to find those items.
Yeah, there's much less cruft in this version of the feature, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not walking out of a nightmare dungeon with 25 items. You have to go and deal with it back at the blacksmith.
But the ones that you do have are much more likely to be relevant and useful to you when you do find them.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Additionally, we've item re-rolling.
So in order to explain some things about like Diablo, I kind of went into left field a little bit, but don't worry about the crafting stuff. Like for Path of Exile, my interest is in the late game. Like I like doing that stuff. So like I said, don't worry about it. I'll explain more of the like basics, but since you've played like a RPG before, you already get a lot of things anyway. So it's not going to be too crazy. It's just, capping the information overload and just giving more context to the shit I'm talking.
The enchanting system at the occultist. We know this has been, it has like a scaling gold cost currently, and that just keeps on ramping up. If you want to keep fishing for that perfect affix, it could cost millions upon millions upon millions of gold. We put a cap on that. We don't think it's really healthy to have that actually scale infinitely. It'll still get a little high, but it's not going to go to infinity. We've taken a pass on the materials, the crafting materials, things like ore and herbs.
Do you want to see the teaser for PoE 2, the Ranger? You want to see how nice this game looks? Just as like sidetracking. That's 2160.
Danger lurks around every corner. What happened to my forest? Prowler! Freeze! Take this!
And some of the other crafting materials in the game, and a lot of the ones have
very
some
crisp.
variety of like common herbs, so that were found in different zones, and there was some nice flavor there, but ultimately they didn't really provide much compelling gameplay. So we've consolidated all of like the common crafting materials into just a single type, just basically common herbs, and then there are still some rare ones to find to craft the most powerful elixirs and so on. But we've simplified that system so your collection is a little bit easier and more streamlined.
Yeah, we also removed things like there's like a lot of monster parts like Pale Tongue and things like that have been removed as part of this experience. It's gonna make it a lot easier to craft elixirs in this new world.
Absolutely.
So, and you don't have to scroll through that tab so long to see exactly what material you want to craft with. Yeah.
Especially when they ultimately just fed towards that same goal. And then the final update we've got is updates to the Forgotten Souls, right? So the late game crafting material that you use for a lot of the enchanting or other crafting systems, we're making them a little bit more accessible.
Forgotten Souls, D3 material, by the way.
They'll come from Whispers of the Dead caches, and they can also rarely drop globally from any elite in the game. And this is a really cool moment that you kind of have this jackpot moment. It's pretty rare when you kill elites, but there is there's a moment where you just get like this explosion of loot, and it spits out a ton of the Forgotten Souls or other loot or other crafting materials, and that's a really exciting moment when you encounter it in game. It's pretty rare, but you kind of hit the jackpot when that does happen.
And for Forgotten Souls, that can happen outside of Helltide, right?
Oh yeah, that can happen on literally any elite in the game.
Yep.
Also, we're looking at updating our uniques. So unique items are, these really build-defining, flashy, unique items, right? They are very powerful.
This was a weird one to me. Again, because you're like lowering the importance of that gear progression by type. I mean 55 isn't terrible, but it's also not great.
Currently, they're locked behind just World Tier 3 and onward. They're really late game items, and we thought that to really get you into the fun.
I think in Path of Exile, it's level 6 that any unique can start dropping, the low level ones. And then you get into like level 70 something when the last ones are available.
Faster to get your build online. We've made it so that many of our uniques in the game can now start dropping in World Tiers 1 and 2, so you can start getting them earlier on in the experience and really get your build going much quicker. And then once you do get into World Tier 3, then all of the uniques in the game have the potential to start dropping, including Uber uniques, which are typically those very late game chase items. There is a chance that monsters starting at level 55 drop these Uber uniques. It's a pretty small chance. It's very rare, but it's one of those moments that you're going to find, if you're really lucky, you might find a Harlequin's Crest.
Yeah, you remember that 55. You'll remember that playthrough for sure.
Yeah, it does. It's just that there's kind of an information overload. Like in that game, a rare item is 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes at maximum. And the game will tell you when they're full. There's tools to like delete a thing randomly. You can scour the whole item and start from scratch. You can, try to aim for one magic affix and then build on that. Or like you have all this control. It's a lot of random crafting methods. Like it's just RNG, but like so I have you to help streamline the info. Yeah.
Chance. It's very rare, but it's one of those moments that you're going to find, if you're really lucky, you might find a Harlequin's Crest.
Yeah, you remember that 55. You'll remember that playthrough for sure.
Oh, you definitely will, right? And of course they'll drop.
I was gonna say, kind of going back to our goals of the itemization update in general, is that like at any time something really exciting can happen, right? That's the main impetus for doing this, is that even early on in the game, you can get the main thing that you're looking for. It's going to be very rare, not very.
Also in PoE, I think there's going to be some things that are maybe not worth explaining now, because there's a lot of quality of life coming in the next patch, and some of those things won't exist in the second game if you're planning on trying it.
Common, but it's possible. And even some of our other updates coming that you're going to explain is kind of going along that vein, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We want you to have the chance to really have that high roll moment, that really exciting moment when you find that awesome loot. So that covers the additional updates. We've got to talk about the Codex of Power, right? So the Codex of Power is a system that has been in the game since launch, and we're making a big update here where now all legendary aspects in the game will start appearing in the Codex of Power. Every single one. Previously it was just a small subset. And I believe we even have some in-game footage that we can talk and go through an example of what this looks like.
Yeah, we'll jump over to it. We have behind the scenes, we actually have Ruben, aka Bloodshed, former content creator, now part of
this is Bloodshed,
the Blizzard team here on Diablo. He's actually driving us through our build here. But
I was actually like jokingly competing with him once on what was it, a challenge rift in D3 because I saw him up near the top, so I like added him on Twitter and be like, hello with eyes, and I pasted my screenshot of where I was at. It was funny.
He will be driving through all our little demos that we have today. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, so you can see in our inventory right now, we've got Edge Master's Siege Bow. And this has a little icon on it in the upper right in your inventory there. And that indicates that if you salvage this legendary, it will upgrade an aspect in the Codex of Power when you salvage it.
That's right. So you no longer need to go to the occultist to extract aspects in any way, because aspect crystals are no longer a thing in this new version of the Codex of Power.
Yeah, aspect crystals are gone. It's just when you salvage the legendary, it will upgrade it. So we salvage it, we can see that Edgemaster's aspect has been upgraded in the Codex of Power. So we go to our Codex of Power and let's go take a look. So we've got Edgemaster's aspect here that skills deal up to 6% increased damage based on your available resource when cast. So that is the kind of legendary rank of the one that we just salvaged. Now this says 6% here. In game it was 12% because it was on a two-handed bow, and that.
So I don't remember this one, but do you have to keep salvaging shit with Edgemasters to upgrade it?
That doubles the range. But you can see it's not a minimum roll. Right now on live Diablo 4, it's always just a minimum roll. And so once you find something better, a better aspect crystal, the Codex is kind of irrelevant. Now the Codex will continue being relevant because every time you find a higher roll of it, it's going to upgrade your Codex, and you can continually re-imprint this legendary power onto any gear that you find going forward.
That's right. So if Ruben finds a 10% roll, on something else, then that is now going to, he can go ahead and salvage that item down. That 10% version is now going to replace the 6% version he has right now, and that's the new version that you have.
Oh, so it's not incremental, it's just highest one counts.
So when we're talking about upgrading, what
that's just, okay,
really mean
whatever.
Is as you find the better versions of these aspects, they replace the older ones. Now, every time you decide you want to imprint the Codex of Power, that's going to be the version that you get from that point forward.
So if you find a max roll the first time, are you just super lucky you have it forever?
You are super lucky, and you would have that forever, yes. You can continually imprint it. However, the ranks of legendaries, you won't be able to find a max roll of these legendaries in World Tiers 1 and 2 when you're just starting out your journey. We have extended the range, so a lot of legendaries used to say, hypothetically, if a legendary rolled between 20% and 30%, now we've extended that range from 20 to 35%, but those like 30 to 35%, the highest range, the most powerful versions, those are only going to be accessible in World Tier 4 in the later games. So this...
I like how they're using both World Tier and your character level to like limit things. So if you were in World Tier 4, you would have to like align the fact that you're not level 55 yet in a mythical scenario with what uniques could drop.
It does give you a bit more of progression. So you can find it early and you can upgrade it, but then you're going to find even better versions as you progress through the world tiers.
And if we actually, can we go back to the build really quickly? Because, Ruben, if you can
bring
pull
up
up the
that
Codex of Power really quickly.
Show the UI a little bit here.
Yeah. Because one big thing is like I know we glazed over this really quickly, but there are filters, ways of searching through everything, which is really nice. And then, of course, on the icons as well, I think people are probably seeing these numbers associated. I know it's something that is changed, obviously, with this new Codex.
Stupid question, the search, was it just like you couldn't freely type in there, right?
Of Power, where it's showcasing like, hey, there's a golden version of Aspect of Quickening Fog right there, which is already showcasing, hey, you have it completely maxed at 16 out of 16. And of course, there's different ranks as you're kind of like leveling up throughout the Codex Power and finding different aspects of it.
Yeah, I really love that gold border to really indicate that, hey, you found the best version, you've kind of completed this. And some of them, you kind of cheat on it, right? Things that only have one rank, as soon as you unlock it, you get the best version.
Yeah, that's an example of one that you could max out in World Tier 1.
You probably could, right? But most of them have now, up to 16 ranks is kind of our standard, for the most part. And those highest ranks are just going to be in the later world tiers.
And for a lot of these aspects too, when we went to 16 ranks on
You're a
this, we actually
sponge.
extended the value, the power of these, and potency of these aspects upwards.
Kitty.
Right? We didn't water it down.
You're a
We actually
sponge.
extended it up.
Yeah, for the most part, these have increased in power at the highest level, just to make them really rewarding in World Tier 4 when you find them.
And I'm sure there's people asking specifically about, hey, is this a seasonal thing? Is this an eternal thing?
This is everywhere forever. This is the new world.
This is eternal.
That's right. All the updates we're talking about today.
Season eternal and
again,
eternal
are for the
eternal.
Eternal realm and for the seasonal realm. These are not seasonal updates only.
Yeah. They're coming with Season 4.
Oh, nice.
But they are applying to the whole game.
Yeah.
Forevermore.
And I do want to note, like, Codex of Power with seasonal characters will end up change, like, every single time
It
there's
does
a new
reset.
season.
Yes.
It
Yeah,
does
the
reset.
same way that it does today.
But
Yeah.
but eternal characters, will just happen
You can
forever.
actually fill it out
Eternally.
forever,
Yes.
Eternally.
Of course.
There you go.
All right, so that was a ton on the systems that already exist in the game, right? The base item affixes, the other updates, and Codex of Power.
Purely
There's also
decoration.
new systems coming.
We're not done with
That was
optimization.
updates to
Halfway
existing
done.
things, but
Yeah,
we have
let's
got a lot of new stuff. So let's talk about tempering. Tempering is a new crafting system that will allow you to add really cool new affixes to your items. And so I really just want to highlight that this is not just taking those old really conditional nitty-gritty aspects or affixes. This also includes a lot of really new exciting affixes as well that we'll showcase a bit later. Things like a chance to cast bonus projectiles, increased effect size.
All right. Chance to get bonus projectiles and increased effects. Isn't that AoE?
Of your skills and other ways of talking directly to individual skills. A lot of this lives in tempering. And so this way you can really customize your character specifically to your build and the skills that you're using and the way you want to play. So you might be asking, well, how do we temper? We've got tempering manuals. So these are manuals that are going to drop from most content in the game. This isn't something you need to go target farm. You're just going to find these as you're playing. And these manuals are going to be a list of possible affixes that are kind of themed to individual builds. So if you are a bone necro, for instance, the manual for bone necro might have things specifically to bone spear and bone splinters and bone spirit. When you do the tempering, which is done at the blacksmith, it will attach a random one of the affixes from that manual onto the item that you're tempering. And if you don't get the exact one that you want or you don't get the roll that you want, you can re-roll these affixes up to the item's tempering durability. Now this is a lot without an example, so I think we've got an example where we can just
let's show
walk
people
through,
what it looks
right?
like.
Yeah, so here's some screenshot examples of the actual recipes that appear. So on the left, we've got the Manual of Natural Motion. This is a generic recipe that really applies to any class. It's got a variety of movement speed options on it. So you've got, you might just attach movement speed to your gear. Maybe you get a higher value of movement speed, but only after you kill an elite. We have the option to reduce your evade cooldown.
Okay, so why is this conditional move speed still there? And they could have worded some of this better, because obviously it seems to me that these have a little more emphasis. Like they're lighter with a mobility tag or evade tag.
Or give you mobility skill cooldown reduction. We've tagged a lot of skills in the game with mobility tag when things like teleport or charge. And then on the right, we've got one that is more specific to necromancer.
Mind you, in Path of Exile, there's a type of cooldown for travel skills. There's some specific modifiers for that. So,
because this is the bone necro one that I mentioned before. So we've got a chance for bone splinter projectiles to cast twice, chance for bone spear projectiles to cast twice, increase the size of your bone spirit explosion.
That's very cool.
Or increase the duration of your bone storm. So if you're a bone necro, one of these is probably going to be pretty relevant to you and will be really a cool way of customizing your character and your skills.
was cast twice, so you have to wait there for 2 simultaneous casts, or is it just an extra projectile? Because like you really need to like differentiate that.
So here's an example of the UI. So on the left, we've got
Remembering random PoE facts.
Charge, one of my favorite legendaries, currently on season 3.
Oh boy.
And so it's got, you know, the relatively
There's
simple
so much more
affixes. It's got just max life, damage, and critical strike chance. And we go to the blacksmith, we put it into the menu here, and we can see that there are kind of 6 categories, with 5 of them being highlighted. These categories are the categories of recipes. So
categories of recipes, okay. And then where's temporary durability?
each recipe corresponds to one of these categories. And
What's
on
that?
amulets, you can put anything except the weapons category. So that's why, you know, offensive, defensive,
Dead?
utility, mobility, and resource are all highlighted here. And once we go through this, we can do this twice because most items can only be tempered once. You can get just 1 affix on them. But ancestral items, these really late game World Tier 4 items, can be tempered twice from 2 separate categories. So you can't put, say, 2 defensive ones on there. You're going to diversify. And in this case, we've got charge cooldown reduction on the right. And we've also got some bonus damage while berserking. So we've got an offensive one here. And then we've got a utility one that gives us the cooldown reduction. Do we have a live example of this, of going through this actual flow, so we can kind of show you what this ends up looking like?
Yep. Once again, yep. That's right there.
Look.
Points at the blacksmith.
Yes. So in here we've got you know, our bow of branching volleys. We can put it in here. Because this is a weapon, we can attach ones from the offensive category. And so here's all the examples. You know, we've got 5 different recipes that we've unlocked here, depending on how we want to build our character. So if we want to do, say, marksman skills to put on there, we can do marksman finesse, and this will give us either bonus marksman damage. Why don't we just temper it and see what it looks like? So we get this flashy animation that comes in, and we get to see, hey, we added 29% marksman damage, right?
Actually worked out quite nicely.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
not scripted, by the way.
Definitely not scripted. So yeah,
Actually, it wasn't. But
It actually was.
you were actually lucky, but
You're at the
Oh, so that durability is just the number of tries. So he added 1 affix, and he's got 4 more tries, and the durability was 5.
in the grips of RNG.
Yeah.
One thing I want to call out also while we're looking at this is that, like, so we are in the season 4 update, or this PTR update that we're talking about right now. This is our first PTR update. There's a lot of changes we have going in, and there's some things that are going to be are kind of in the middle of being polished now, or kind of getting wrapped up for some things in dev. There's going to be some things that players will see on the PTR. They're going to feel like, oh, this is like not quite what I expect. Or there's like they might find bugs and things.
Yep.
That's kind of the nature of the PTR experience.
Yeah.
We want you to report those, like Adam called out a little bit earlier, and get your feedback on the experience.
Yeah, that's actually a really good reminder, because I think a lot of people haven't experienced PTR, especially if you're like kind of new to Diablo and you do.
I used to play them, and my god, the bugs there are just
Jump in. PTRs will have bugs. It is an early look at the build. So there will be bugs, polished things that won't be incorporated. So yes, provide feedback on all those things so that we can actually.
This is the best. Dat mods. Thank you, Last Epoch, for letting Diablo 4 borrow your homework. It's so similar. Oh my god. Okay. In Last Epoch, what you do is you go to the crafting forge, you put your item in, and it has these little like connections to what affix you have. There's a crafting potential, which is the same as the durability, sort of. And then you can do things like upgrade affixes on it, and they're only like 2 prefixes and 2 suffixes. So it's a lot easier to understand because it's condensed, but it's the same type of thing. These are just like adding different types of affixes to items.
hear those and make changes for those.
But if we throw back to Ruben real quick, the thing I wanted to point out was like when the the tempering process went through, so you got 28% for the that marksman damage, but the item itself got a slightly different number. There's just a bug that we've identified that we're in the middle of fixing right now.
Right, that's just a display bug, but this is one of the things that we're working on, we're aware of, and going to polish up because that's the nature of game development.
Just for the eagle-eyed among the viewers.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a thing.
All right, so a few other things to call out here. Let's actually close this menu and then take a look at when it's in there. We can talk about tempering durability a little bit. So you can see when this is in here, we've got.
At least Path of Exile is free to play, and Last Epoch is cheap. It's like 35 USD.
Tempered affixes 1 out of 2 because this is an ancestral item. You can temper it twice from 2 different categories. So you're going to be able to put 1 weapon and 1 offensive on there. And then there's this tempering durability remaining. So this is how many times you can re-roll the tempered affixes. The first ones that you attach should not be consuming tempering durability. I think this one might have one of those bugs where it did consume it, but ultimately this is going to be the number of times you can re-roll.
Yeah, we're actually going to update the string. I think it's going to literally be called tempering re-rolls.
Re-roll.
Yeah,
okay.
to make it really, really clear.
Yeah.
Oh, see, there you go.
So, yeah, this is the kind of things that we're actively working on, and we love your feedback on to make sure that we can get this right and really communicate the way the system works.
So there's a possibility I might play that. I still don't think that the game is in a good enough state for me to like commit a lot of time to it, because Path of Exile is my thing right now, and like that takes enough energy in and of itself based on like all the changes that happen to it. So I don't know.
So we've attached an offensive affix onto this. Let's take a look at some of the weapon ones that we can attach on. So here we've got ones that not great.
And it crashed.
Live build.
Yeah, live build indeed.
Live build.
Well, so we can talk through what would have happened there.
Yeah.
Right, so when you would attach the weapon category, those are often the ones that are the more, I would say more interesting, right? The bonus projectiles, the bonus effect size.
Yeah, that was the weapon category that had a chance to create different, like multiple bone splinters, or twice rather.
Yeah, that's in the weapon category. So there we would attach one of those. Maybe we'd get a chance for rapid fire projectiles to fire an extra time. And then when we do that, maybe, we actually want to play a penetrating shot build, right? Or maybe rapid fire is not that great. We could consume.
I will say too that like, here's the difference between like grinding your games and Blizzard. Like, these guys tend to make decisions by themselves, and it's just, whatever. We hear about it after they say submit your feedback. It just goes into their feedback box. But like, grinding your games has been appearing on podcasts. They do like a whole write-up about like their intent of something. They do they've done developer manifestos before. They've been like super clear about everything. They just flew out a whole bunch of creators to test PoE2 in like the last couple days before they reveal it and go to like PAX and everything and have a demo. They just are so hands-on and like transparent about what's going on. Like, they've even said that like, we want to hear about what annoys you so we can try and put it on our list and fix it. So there's going to be like a lot of things that just have a lot less friction to get into.
One of the tempering durabilities to re-roll that and try to get that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like, that's why I support them. That's why I got my tattoo. That's why I bought that like sick as hell supporter pack, which I can show you my awesome ass hideout at some point. I got that thing still here. Yeah. So I got art prints with my supporter pack as well, and they're signed by the team. Like this. Is that showing up? And then like that, one of the other bosses. This one is actually one of like the big figures in PoE lore, but they're all signed by the team. Because when you buy the expensive pack, they send you physical items too. It's not just digital stuff. But I've been keeping it in the plastic the whole time.
That bonus rapid fire projectile ones that we won.
At least people now believe it.
Yeah, they are.
Do people still think we weren't doing it live?
Looking at it. But yeah, I know we're getting the build back up here and everything. But
there's a lot of really cool new affixes in general inside the tempering system. Like I know that like I've been playing a lot of season 4. Opportunities to like spawn, like instead of spawning one dust devil, you'll spawn multiple dust.
Yeah, that's really the goal of tempering is customization and really cool new ways of building your character. That's not just plus damage. There is still some bonus damage as you still need to in order to actually do damage, but there's a lot of ways you can customize your skills and make it really your own.
Now right now you can
So the problem there is that if there's an option that's clearly better, then people are going to go for that option, especially if there's nothing within the builds that can make proper use of the alternatives. So like if there's a tempering affix that just gives you straight up damage, but it applies globally to all the builds, that's going to be meta. But if you have like equal footing where you can do something that's fully AoE scaled and you have like a tempering AoE thing, then you can go either way. But like
dairy items,
correct,
and rare items, but you can't temper unique items.
Correct. Unique items, kind of what you see is what you get, right? They drop still with the 4 affixes for the most part. Those are going to be unchanged. You won't be able to temper onto them.
With tempering, yeah.
With tempering, right.
And then we show the tempering durability, as part of, or tempering rerolls in this case. So the idea here is that like when the player has you're not happy with all the affixes you've got, you've kind of rerolled through all of your options. At the end of that process, you simply can't temper any longer on that item. There's not a way to reset that item back down. One of the goals that we have for ourselves in terms of like trying to have higher quality drops in general is to make it so it's a little bit easier, and also ensuring like it's easier for you to reach those 925 capped items when you start to really deeply engage in features like this. Is you want to make it a little bit easier for you to go find some of those really good baseline templated items for you to start building on top of, as opposed to having it be like I need to find like 70 helmets in the hopes I find a max roll cooldown reduction on it, right? Like we're in a different place now in terms of how we're thinking about that. In addition to the crafting, the trading changes that we've made as well. I want to make it a little bit easier for you to find some of these things, between it being a lot easier to have drops that are relevant for you appear when you're doing various types of content, but also that if you're playing with friends, there's opportunities for you to maybe trade some things around at the same time.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about finding really strong base items to build off of. And I think that goes great into our next point where we talk about greater affixes. So greater affixes are affixes that appear in the late game. They are more
have to bounce, but it's been fun. Enjoy the rest of your stream. Talk soon. Okay, have a good night.
1.5x multiplier on the affixes max roll. So let's say a hypothetical affix might come between like 50 to 100 of a stat. If it rolls greater, then you actually get 150 of that.
Thanks for stopping by.
Instead of the roll, it always comes in at max. So it comes in at that 150 mark. these are really exciting drops when you get into the late game. They're going to be immediately obvious whenever they drop on the ground. They're going to have a little change to the UI, so you can see it right away, and you know, hey, that one has greater affixes on it. And that's going to be ones that you're really going to want to pick up and make sure that you take a look at, and then you really want to build off of because they're some of the strongest affixes in the game. I think we've got an example here. And one other note, these, as I mentioned, they're late game. They only appear on Ancestral Legendary items and Ancestral Uniques that are dropping in World Tier 4. I think we can zoom in on the top one here, where we can see we've got a little, like some Roman numerals at the end of it, 2. That indicates that this pair of gloves has 2 greater affixes on it. And when you actually go and pick it up, we can take a look at the tooltip of the item itself, and we can see that intelligence here is highlighted, and so is critical strike damage. And these roll at the max roll, and I think we've got a comparison kind of between, you know, a standard version. So on the left is a you know, a non-greater version of a dagger. You've got, say, 74 dexterity, and maybe it rolled between 70 and 84. But on the right, we've got a greater version of dexterity, and that's going to always give you 126, which is 1.5 times the 84. Same with the critical strike damage down at the bottom. So if you find the dagger on the right, that's a really good one. I mean, not only do you have 2 greater...
I think this is kind of pointless. Like, why would you say this is max item tier when clearly there's like a super max?
You also max roll the attack speed in between. That is a great base item to start building through the tempering system on. Thing we've got, the next topic to talk about is masterworking. Masterworking is a late game crafting system that we're going to use to upgrade the items. So once you kind of find a really good base item, maybe it has some greater affixes on it, and then you've tempered on the affixes that you want. You know, hey, you've found the exact affixes that are specific to your build that you've attached onto it. Now you're really pushing into the late game content. It's time to start masterworking. And masterworking has 12 ranks where you can upgrade the current affixes on your gear. So this isn't going to change any of the affixes like enchanting or like tempering does. This is just going to take the current ones and then upgrade them through 12 ranks.
This is kind of like the old gear upgrade, right?
Similar, yes. However, both masterworking and tempering are replacing the old gear upgrade system. The previous system, where you just kind of upgraded the item power and the values went up by a bit, these two systems replace that, and now you're going to be able to customize them and then masterwork them instead.
It's significantly more powerful on the back end of this as well after these things are done. Compared to item upgrade,
Absolutely. So the 12 ranks of masterworking, as opposed to the 5 of the old system, most of the ranks are going to increase all of your affixes on the gear by a small amount. But then every 4 ranks, so rank 4, 8, and 12, are going to upgrade a single affix by a large amount. So here's an example. The ring on the left is rank 2 masterworking. You can see that right up there by the item power. It says masterworking 2 out of 12. Let's focus in on like the maximum life affix there. So on the left at rank 2, you see we've got 880 bonus maximum life. And so we take it, we masterwork it up to rank 3, and then that will upgrade that to 920 maximum life. So a little bit of an improvement. But then once we hit rank 4, we actually get a much larger increase in maximum life. It goes from 920 all the way up to 1,120, while the other affixes on the gear stay static because they didn't roll randomly, because we're only hitting 1. To Joe's point earlier about we still have some in development, this is in development content, it's not final, as the watermark says. This is in development content, it's not final, as the watermark says. But the tempered affixes at the bottom, the Golem active cooldown reduction and the Bone critical strike damage, those also would be being upgraded and are eligible to have this, this larger bonus. But in this particular screenshot example, those numbers didn't change, but they will change in the final, and there's a chance.
Those also get affected,
Yeah, they will be included just like all of the rest of them. But yeah, so as you go through it, you're going to get rank 3, and then that will upgrade that to 920 maximum life. So a little bit of an improvement. But then once we hit rank 4, we actually get a much larger increase in maximum life. It goes from 920 all the way up to 1,120, while the other affixes on the gear stay static because they didn't roll randomly, because we're only hitting 1. To Joe's point earlier about we still have some in development. This is in development content. It's not final, as the watermark says. The tempered affixes at the bottom, the Golem active cooldown reduction and the Bone critical strike damage, those also would be being upgraded and are eligible to have this this larger bonus. But in this particular screenshot example, those numbers didn't change, but they will change in the final, and there's a chance
also get affected. Yeah.
Yeah, they will be included just like all of the rest of them. But yeah, so as you go through it, you're going to get kind of 3 of these effects at rank 4, 8, and 12, and they can all go on the same one. So if you get really, really lucky and you really needed a lot of maximum life, you might get just a ton of maximum life every time that increases. Or it could be on one of your tempered affixes. You could get tons of Golem cooldown reduction if that's the kind of build that you're looking for. And once you fully masterworked an item, if it didn't really pan out the way you wanted to, the random rolls didn't quite go your way, you are able to reset it and try it again, but you will kind of lose all the materials that you've invested into it, but you can try that again. It doesn't completely lock you out of it.
Right. So once you've got like a really great pair of gloves or whatever that you've tempered at this point, you've enchanted to get exactly the affix you wanted off it. Maybe you got some greater affixes on it in the first place when you started. Then you take that item into, assuming you got through all that process, you can take it into the masterworking feature, and then you can kind of keep going at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and get the opportunity to kind of hopefully.
We talked about paring down the affix list to just more simple intelligence, damage, and vulnerable damage. And on the right, we can see it after it has been tempered. So we've got Bone Spear or Bone Spirit damage. We've got chance for a Bone Splinter projectiles to cast twice. And then we can see intelligence has been highlighted in blue. That means it's had 1 of the upgrades from masterworking. And the damage stat on here has been upgraded twice. That's why it's in yellow when we got up to masterworking 12. And you can see how we've taken this progression, this item progression. So here, once you got it all the way up to masterworking 12, this is really kind of the pinnacle of what items can be in our new itemization world.
So what I want to highlight here is that the total depth of what an item can do and the complexity. You can still make an item do a lot of different things, but on that before side, when you're looking for items that are dropping, that's all that you're going to parse through over there. It's just like 3 affixes. Did I get the ones I want? And you can just do that very quickly and parse through a lot of items that way. But you're going to be slowly, introducing that complexity over time to your items as you upgrade and masterwork them. So you're going to be building the items that you really want to be using.
Absolutely.
In terms of like lucking out on this, I think it's fun to call out like it is basically 5% upgrades to your affixes during the regular masterworking process, and then there's 3 randomly selected 25% upgrades to one of those affixes.
The items that you
upgrades to your affixes during the regular masterworking process, and then there's 3 randomly selected 25% upgrades to one of those affixes. So if you're very, very fortunate and you manage to triple up on a particular stat, you can do the math. It's a tremendous, tremendous upgrade for that affix overall.
If you want to go hard into one affix, you can go really hard into one affix.
You go really hard on CDR in this world, right?
I'm terrified.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You can go hard into CDR, yes.
Or really hard on bonus projectiles, because those are cool and flashy.
Or bonus projectiles, that's actually true, yeah.
It's going to be really sweet.
Yep.
There's bone spears everywhere.
Absolutely. But of course, you might be asking, okay, new items are great. Well, what am I going to do with all of these new items?
Before we even bridge to me, okay, this is a really good bridge. Of the unique item, but a lot of like the really specific unique affixes, those all benefit from the masterworking process as well, which are really significant, right? So I think that there's something really, really fun there. Also, you can make sure that like when some of these unique items are dropping, they also can have greater affixes attached to them. So those same unique affixes that we're talking about, like that is huge. Like now you get an extra like 50% value on top of that.
Yeah.
So like you get 50% value on top of a unique item affix, and then on top of that you masterwork it. It can get really bonkers. So there's a good chase involved in this. But like even allowing for like player trading and everything else, there's still like lots of really exciting stuff for players to find.
Yeah, and the other thing I've seen a little bit of this in chat as well, is like a lot of people are going like, hey, when are we actually? Right at the beginning of season 4, which is on May 14th, PTR being on April 2nd. So
there's a couple other things I also want to say. Doesn't fit.
I got one too.
Oh, do you? Oh no, you go first. You go first.
All right. I want to clarify something because I know it's gonna be a lot of questions that people have on greater affixes.
Yes.
So greater affixes, the way that you get them is you can only get them from things that drop. So you're actually looking for that moment when you kill the mob, kill the enemy, the loot drops. That's the exciting moment that we're targeting. Enchanting is still going to exist. You can still enchant your affixes like normal on those 3 ones that drop. You cannot enchant into a greater affix.
this is something that does start immediately with season 4 when it begins.
Yes.
This is all the itemization changes will start with the start of season 4, because I know a lot of people were questioning because they're going like, well, we had heard Gauntlet in the past, and then Gauntlet actually started mid-season. The itemization changes and all the changes you're hearing today will start at right at the beginning of season 4, which is on May 14th. PTR being on April 2nd. So.
There's a couple other things I also want to say. Doesn't fit.
I got one too.
Oh, do you? Oh no, you go first. You go first.
All right. I want to clarify something because I know it's gonna be a lot of questions that people have on greater affixes.
Yes.
So greater affixes, the way that you get them is you can only get them from things that drop. So you're actually looking for that moment when you kill the mob, kill the enemy, the loot drops. That's the exciting moment that we're targeting. Enchanting is still going to exist. You can still enchant your affixes like normal on those 3 ones that drop. You cannot enchant into a greater affix. You can enchant out of a greater affix. So if you choose to, if you've got like a 1 greater affix item, you can enchant that greater affix to something else, but it won't change to another greater, and you can't change anything into a greater. It's all about killing monsters, finding that moment that is really exciting when the item drops, seeing if that works for you. So I just wanted to clarify that on how enchanting works and kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, absolutely. Focusing on the drop, the moment
The
of
drop
excitement.
is the moment of excitement that we're going for there.
Right, and then one other thing I want to call out as well that we didn't talk about already, and that is there's a lot of other changes that we haven't actually discussed here that you'll see when we get to play in the PTR. But one of them I think is really cool is we actually add a bunch of other new baseline rare affixes that can appear on items.
Yeah.
That like players haven't seen before.
Yes.
You know, so there's as an example of a few of these, we have like Fury per second. You know, can appear on items, which is very, very exciting and very interesting for my barbarian friends.
Transformative.
It's very transformative. Like there's a number of other ones like life per hit. You know, is now something that players can find as you're going through the experience. Like, are there any that you two thought of that are kind of cool, or?
And also ones that are cool and powerful that appear on different slots. So previously, weapons almost always had bonus damage of some sort. We've extended that, so a lot of weapons can now have resource cost reduction. They can have bonus attack speed and other things that increase your output through not just saying damage to a certain way. More interesting ways of increasing your output.
Yeah, very cool.
To me, bonus projectiles. That's just the best part. I'm terrified of it. It's so cool though, but it's gonna be
really cool.
Having bonus projectiles drop and then have that potentially be a greater affix when it grows, and then you masterwork bonus projectiles, and it gets silly.
Yeah.
I know we want to talk about some end game stuff that's coming to the game. Maybe we leave that for the end of the stream itself, right before we go into Q&A. Is there? I'm going to ask production here. I'm going to pivot them. Is there a way that we can jump to class changes coming to
me next?
Yeah, you next. I'm pivoting.
We got kind of a shrug, so like, I think so.
Yeah, we'll go through the end game stuff here because we do have a lot of additional things that we still need to talk about that even pair with this itemization, these itemization changes. But we'll jump into class changes really.
All right, be right back. Okay. Okay.
Quickly, and then
Sure,
we'll
we
jump
can go
back
to me
into the
next.
game.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Do it.
Take us away, Adam.
All right, so are we ready to go? Yeah. Okay. So we've got kind of 3 big goals for class updates. We've got a lot going on. I'm going to try and breeze through a little quick in the interest of time. The first one is going through a very high volume of meaningful class updates. And what I mean by meaningful is, not just moving numbers up and down on things that exist, but kind of either updating systems of how things interact at a systemic level, or adding things that are really, really powerful and are actually going to move the needle and change how you interact with the class or the skill or the legendary or whatever we're changing. Next one is making flat damage effects more viable. So by flat damage, I'm talking about things like dust devils, earthquakes, dancing bolts, all these things. I talked a few Campfire chats ago about how I wanted to make these things like a lot more viable and scale better, and we're going to be making good on that in Season 4. I'm excited we'll go into more details, but yeah, that's one of the big things that's changing this season. And last but not least, opening up designs to be more generally useful. So kind of similar to item affixes, how you've got these like multi-conditional things. We're going through classes across the board and going and looking for ways that we can open up things. So you're going to find that things that were a little more restrictive, we're going to try and interact with more different pieces. So something may have only talked to core skills, now it can be any skill, things like that, where we're trying to make things less conditional so that you can mix and match things a lot more often. So yeah, in addition to those 3 things, those are our goals. I'm also going to be talking a little bit today about PTR balance and hardcore updates. And little PSA, everything that you see here right now, the tuning is still in flux. We're going through the balancing process right now of these things. So any exact numbers that you see of updates is very much subject to change, not only before PTR, but of course one of our goals for you playing PTR is helping us with the tuning and balance, because everything and more content. We're also adding a new Uber unique here, Tyrael's Might. This is a defensive-oriented unique. It's going to be a chess piece.
Oh, good. That wasn't. We're doing like 1 or 2 examples per class, but when you get the patch notes, you're going to see it's like a giant wall. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing everywhere.
Just a slice of the overall pie.
Yeah. So some examples here. Skill tag updates. So we're not only doing this on the sorceress, but on other classes as well, but this is the one example I want to give. One of the pain points that sorceress has always had is that they have kind of core skills and then mastery skills. Mastery skills are things like firewall, meteor, things like that. And the mastery skills, we're always kind of second class to the core skills because we had a lot of things that scaled core skill damage, but not mastery skill damage. So we've updated our skill tags and kind of changed things around so that they make more sense. So you're going to see there. I've been talking for. The goal here is not to remove these from the game or make these builds not viable at all. They're going to be reduced this, but this is just some that I wanted to call out. The first stable currents did too damage as it was intended to. Now can reduce one of your active cooldowns by a pretty chunky amount. Thing that was not going to happen very often. It turned out that's not really the case through itemization and other things. You can kind of solve resource a lot easier nowadays.
Yeah, it's fun to do that too.
Yeah, and it's fun. We want people to do that. Yeah. So
Okay. Surprise and back from it. Oh wow.
We
Okay.
have to update our other systems in accordance to that, which is kind of what we're doing here.
Very
so
nice.
Now you don't only have to hit the marked enemy, but you can charge up inner sight off of everything. So as you're blowing up waves of enemies, you still want to make sure you're hitting the one that's targeted, but now you'll get a little bit of gauge off of any enemy that you hit. And now in addition,
So I'm not gonna go through like the whole thing because this is just specific stuff they want to call out for the classes and like bug fixes. But like I really wanted to get the actual like patch notes thing. I actually got like the main meat of it. One thing they didn't actually clarify until later for the greater affixes is those are in a drop only pool. So you can only find them randomly. And you can't enchant into them, you can enchant out of them. The tempering, they said they were going to change the verbiage on that, and then masterworking has like 3 breakpoints, so you can pick an affix and upgrade it by 5%, and at tiers 4, 8, and 12, there's a chance it could upgrade 25%. Is what I'm getting. So you can go like mega hard on something. You can even reset those items apparently, and like try again at masterworking, which is weird. I mean, drop only stuff is neat, but it just like, the idea that you could get something perfect just kind of bothers me a little bit. It does make items, more interesting overall, like for sure. But like you need a place to put all of this extra character power, right? And I don't think they have the necessary activities for that yet.
in addition to that, the payoff is better. So not only are you going to get that unlimited air in addition to that, so here you pretty much very similar golem now builds, which I think will make players really happy.
Yeah, it's like buddy cop situation.
You and your buddies going and taking people out.
That's right, I love it. Yeah.
That's awesome for a Golem Mancer build for sure.
Yeah. So next, like I was saying before, flat damage effects, dust levels, and earthquakes are going to be your friends now. So before, these legendaries did not scale very well. And what I mean by that is that the damage that they did was fixed. So
Wait. Flat damage legendaries did not scale, but damage was fixed. Now they scale based on the player's weapon. Oh, fucking hell. Oh, Jesus Christ. Why?
if you got like a dust level or earthquake or whatever, you got that legendary at like level 25, the damage that it did was just a number, and that number didn't really go up with you or scale with you in a meaningful way.
This was a problem in Diablo 3. Like, it's not so much a problem here, but like in D3, for example, your damage was your weapon. And if you did nothing, if you didn't have a weapon, you really didn't do much damage. So now we have kind of a similar problem here where like there's a lot more character power that just results from having a high-powered weapon. Because like casters shouldn't necessarily need, for example, a wand that has high power damage. It should just be like what is it? Damage from the spell mostly. And then once you get into your melee stuff, or like, you know, those archetypes, then yeah, you can change, you can scale off the weapon. But I don't get why you have to be like paying attention to that anymore.
Now, under the hood, all of these things are going to be scaling based off your weapon damage, which means that these things will scale with you as a player and be much more viable now. And I believe we can zoom in on this example I give. So this one is Dancing Bolts. I'm actually running this legendary right now, my Lightning Storm Druid. So you can see that, you know, it's the same legendary on each side. This is me just changing out my weapon while I have this.
This is like a
whip.
flat 25% damage
increase. It does an amount
increase.
of damage on the left, you know, about 5,400 there. Now that number on the right, I didn't get a new legendary, I didn't change it, I didn't do anything except change my weapon, and that increased the damage that these Dancing Bolts are going to do. So when you get these legendaries now, they're going to scale with you and do quite a bit more damage and be punchy as you go into the late game. This is in addition to like tempering and other things, talking to these things, so you can actually itemize into making them more powerful as well.
And it's funny because there's some people I think that didn't catch, maybe they didn't catch the first part of the itemization, but they're looking at this second legendary, the new one, and they're going like, well, it's only got 3 stats or something. You should probably watch a recording of this.
Yeah, that's when it drops, not after you've done all your stuff on it.
There's a lot of itemization changes to make you know, the items feel more valuable themselves in Season 4. I recommend watching the recording just for people that may have missed the itemization or checking out our blog next week.
You can tap 2 more affixes on them. There you go.
Yeah, they got 5.
That's right.
All right, so last but not least is opening up designs. Like I talked about, one of our goals here, make things more generally useful, less restrictions. We can zoom in here. I have 2 examples. One is Azurath here on the left, a unique sword. So 2 things going on here. First, you can see before, it was that your core skills have a chance to freeze enemies and deal a bunch of damage to them. On the right, we've removed the core skill requirement, and now any of your skills can have a chance to freeze enemies. So this means, you know, you can use it on, you know, like charge and other similar things like that, where, you know, maybe you want to make a build around something that's not a core skill to proc this, you totally can, or it's just going to proc more often and you just play normally. Second thing you'll notice is on the left it says Barbarian only. We just removed that restriction. So now any class that can use a sword can use Azurath. Again, we're just trying to look for places where there was restrictions, and when we can, we're just removing them. Next one is Opportunist. This one I'm really excited about on the Rogue. I think I'm going to play a Rogue this season. So on the left is the old version, where it says when you break stealth with an attack, you can drop stun grenades, right? And then those grenades deal damage and stun enemies. On the right, we've removed a lot of these restrictions and made it more useful. So now it's when you enter or break stealth, and you don't need to break stealth when you attack. So anytime that you cast stealth or go into stealth, you're going to get 2 sets of these, and it's just going to be when you go in and out, and you just get stun grenades. You also notice that this is a tuning thing, but the stun duration on stun grenades has been buffed. It's a second now. And then we also did a thing that I'm really excited about.
It's weird.
Every single stun grenade legendary will increase the damage of your grenade skills, and all of them are going to have this. So if you want to make a stun grenade build, if you collect, you know, the 4 or 5 of these legendaries
it's just multipliers on multipliers on multipliers on multipliers on multipliers.
You know, they'll be doing a lot more meaningful damage in your build.
I can see why people think that it's basically just D3
All right,
again.
last but not least, we've got hardcore updates. So for you hardcore players, Elixir of Death Evasion is being removed from the game. It's dying, and it's not coming back, just like you will in hardcore. We've also the Flame Shield enchantment.
This I agree with. Hardcore should be hard.
When you took fatal damage, it would save you. Now it's going to automatically activate.
If you're going to play HC, you've accepted that you're going to just die. Pretty much. And I like the cumulative 100%, so you could be doing shit, lose an equivalent of 100% of max life, and you'll activate it.
Cooldown on that.
Yeah, so, like they had so many
kind of loud and clear. They really want
cheat options to help you get out of it. Which meant that it's just like almost like softcore.
To be hardcore, and so we're going to deliver on that. Now you actually have to be careful. The Sanctuary is a very scary place, and you won't have those fail safes to keep you alive anymore. And finally, PTR feedback. So like we mentioned before, we're going to be looking at the PTR feedback very carefully. Please let us know what you think. The class team.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm gonna be like, my plan was to be busy with PoE 1 and 2 because the leagues are gonna rotate. It's gonna be like a month, kind of between them. And I don't know if I'm gonna like PoE 2 more or what have you, but like, goddamn.
Is particularly excited about what's working.
I think it's just Q&A
for you.
Then.
When you're kind of tuning your feedback and typing it to us, we're really looking at things like tuning and balance.
Yeah,
we know that things are going to be pretty wacky in this brave new world that we're going into. We're also looking for what changes really made the game more.
Honestly, I like PoE better. It's just, it does things so well, like, especially trading. It doesn't suck. And like in PoE 2, it's going to be better. Like, there's so much stuff. Like, you can track the prices of things. Like, if I went to currency, let's say you don't need to know a Divine Orb. That's a good one. You could see the price of it over like the entire league. Because people traded like different amounts for it. You can see how like far down it went. You know what I mean? There's tons of like really good, impactful like trading, currencies, items. You can get more wealth just from crafting. You can leave your hideout and find something awesome. You know what I mean? It doesn't suck. Correct. It does not suck. Hold on. Check out like that. That was my first mirror. What a mirror does is it will duplicate any equipable non-unique item. So if you have a rare and you think it's like really awesome, you can make a double of it. That's why that currency is mega rare, and it dropped off in nothing too. Just boom. What the fuck? I had played the game for like 6,000 hours at that point or something before one of those popped out.
Fun to you. You're going to see a lot of them, a lot more than what I presented today. We really want to know what changes we did, maybe didn't hit the mark and why.
Oh,
maybe we didn't
you might have been peeping on the
clips. Or this
clips.
thing could have been way better with just a small tweak.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Want to know what would you like to see that didn't make it in, right?
I'm sure the builds I was playing were very confusing.
We want to know, a lot of these changes are coming from your feedback, like, flat damage scaling, unstoppable coming on the golem for necromancers who've been wanting more sources of it. What other things are you seeing that, have always kind of bugged you or have always been kind of a pain point that you would like us to change? And we'll be looking for that feedback. So yeah, that's pretty much everything we got for classes. Thanks everybody again.
Yes, so
we're excited.
There is like ton of information for classes, and it's funny because everyone's treating this PTR feedback slide as if we're done.
No. There's more. There's a lot more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He hasn't even gotten started yet.
As the chat
Find any good ones?
Calls it, Joe Pipe4 Rap God has not spoken yet. So he will be talking here now about endgame specific items.
Sure, thanks. So a couple things I want to talk about first. We're going to talk about some new content stuff in just a minute, but there are some other things that are also changing at the same time. You'll see on the PTR, we've made adjustments to world tiers, and that we've changed the XP modifier that you get for opting into certain world tiers. So I'm going to...
So this is another thing that's weird about Diablo. Like in Path of Exile, they make the campaign part of your character progression. So you're always doing it on new characters, but you'll have like better gear. So you'll be able to get like a, twink setup all nice and done. So you have better move speed, better, damage, some resists, along the way, but like you still need to do the campaign because there's necessary things in there. Like Diablo just sort of negates it and says, hey, this content doesn't matter anymore. You've only needed to do it once. And it just feels like a waste. Not that I want to keep doing their campaign because it's long. And like the PoE one is 10 acts. So like WTF, but it's not like it takes me a stupid amount of time to do it. I've done it so many times.
So the reason why we're doing this, we want to get players to endgame a little bit faster. So we've made an adjustment where World Tier 2 now goes, instead of giving you 20% bonus XP, it gives you 50% bonus XP. World Tier 3 now gives you 150% bonus XP as opposed to the 100% you got before. And then World Tier 4 gives you 250% bonus XP instead of the 200% that you got before. So again, we want to get players into the space where they're getting a chance to play with these new items. They're getting a chance to see some of the new content we're going to be talking about in just a minute, and experience more of the end game and have a little less. Probably 925 items. We want them to start seeing more greater affixes. We want them to engage in tempering and masterworking. We want them to see everything else the game has to offer. We want to make sure that we're removing some of the restrictions and making that possible. And we're continuing to think about that as we move forward. This is just all of the things we're talking about today are just one more step on the journey of Diablo 4. We're going to continue, as Adam already called out, to continue to make the game better based on feedback and just continue to add more cool stuff that we think is great for the game, and that also that we're hearing from our player base, our community, would be really, really great for the game experience. So with that quick little thing out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the first major update we have planned that you get a chance to see on PTR. And that is we made a significant update to Helltide. Now, I think that everyone will remember that in Season 3, we made an adjustment to Helltide timing, where now they're basically up for 55 minutes out of every hour. There's a 5-minute gap between each Helltide experience. And we think that that's great. Players are able to get better access to Forgotten Souls and all the gameplay there. But we also, like, looking back on Season 2 and the Blood Harvest regions where the armies of Lord Zir were marching across Sanctuary, as we all recall from quarter 4 of last year, and capturing people and draining them of blood. That was we thought that was a really fun, frenetic, like social experience. The overworld, like it's just a blast, kind of go through, kill vampires, save people. And summon Bloodseekers as well along the way, and getting good rewards.
Is still around?
It was a fun experience. In Season 3, we had a different take on that idea with the form of Arcane Tremors, where players can go and engage in a number of different small activities and traps, and also managed to summon Heralds of Malthus in a group and go ahead and get more like tuning stones and more and governance.
Have you been following
just get more rewards from that experience? And again, we thought that was pretty fun, right? So
the gold chase
back to Helltide, and I'll be actually I think it might be even easier if we could just throw to Ruben potentially, who I think might actually be able to be in Helltide right now.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Looks like that's the case. So we want to take some of these ideas back to Helltide. Hello, yes, you're going to get destroyed. We want to take some of these ideas back to Helltide and make sure that our overworld, exciting, demonic invasion experience that players get to go through is just more fun to engage with.
Was that?
Basically, that guy is second all time in NHL goal scoring, like for goals, not total points. Well, and total points, I think. No, hold on. Sorry. Just for goals. He's like 15th or something, 17 all time for total points. But he has 844 goals, and he's like 50 away. Set up some follows. Oh boy. That one's not necessary. I have a whole lot of stuff going for like
Just a giant hellworm.
Diablo people, Path of Exile people.
That was a giant hellworm belching a bunch of enemies.
The former community manager of Grinding Good Games still follows me. She's a nice person.
That we did is we add this new idea of a threat system. Now you'll see the eagle-eyed among you can look to the left of the minimap. Thank you, Ruben. Can look to the left of the minimap, and you'll see a horizontal bar. It's segmented in 3 pieces. Next to that kind of like half-completed pentagram there. As the players are killing demons in Helltide areas, they are slowly growing their threat.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And as they do that, they're going to find like more like ambushes. They're going to find more creatures coming and trying to kill them as they kind of like roll through the space.
The Path of Exile, just more good stuff. Crazy.
Tortured gifts. If they are killing like regular monsters,
They've been releasing good things all
always
week.
More threat for the things that they do. The armies of hell are paying more attention. So as the player is going to go through this process, they are going to start feeling like more pressure as they go through the experience. Now, once the player is gotten towards the end of this, like they actually have, when the armies of hell have been fully alerted, you'll hear a tone, which I think that I think we might actually hear soon potentially. I guess we'll have to see, but you'll hear a tone alerting you to the fact that.
Okay. I think I'm done with that for now. Yeah, I know. Hold on, I don't see my chats. Hold on. There we go. What were you planning to follow on Twitter? Really gonna have to call it a night right now. Sleep, take care. Yeah, you know what? I'm kind of like beat. I'm gonna log off. Have a good night. See you later. Oh, I meant the hockey stuff? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's okay. Have a good night. Go sleep. I'm just gonna hang out.